so what we have here is a G&L Tribute Series Fallout bass, which is G&L's 30-inch short scale bass and their import line. There's also a US version of this. There are a few differences between this and the US one. Notably, the body wood is basswood on these guys, and on the US one it's alder, but there are a lot of the same components here. The maple neck, the lovely Leo Fender designed MFD magnetic field design pickup here, and his fabulous saddle lock bridge. So we have a lot of design elements from Leo Fender, although he didn't specifically design this bass. Everything that's in here comes from Leo's earlier designs, and it's kind of all put into one fabulous thing. It's based on the Fallout guitar, which is a popular guitar model. It's my favorite guitar, and that was based on the SC2 or the SC series of electric guitars in the early 80s that came out. So the body shape is inspired from that. A nice pick guard added in here. Now, essentially the wiring is nothing that we haven't seen before either. This is essentially a short scale version of Leo Fender's first bass design for G&L, the L1000. So we have a single MFD pickup placed in that precision bass sweet spot. Now, a couple of years earlier, when he was designing the Music Man instruments, the Stingray, he experimented with moving this pickup a little closer to the bridge, and results vary. Some people love it, some people want a little bit more bottom end. I prefer it back here in the precision bass sweet spot. It has a little bit more bottom end there, and because this beautiful MFD pickup has so much extra top end as well as bottom end, it's a really nice balance. So the switching we have here, there's 3 modes. Full humbucking mode with the switch forward is parallel, and the middle position is a single coil, so only one of the coils, I believe this one, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's this guy. And the final position is kind of both coils, but one of the coils has a capacitor across it that cuts out a lot of the high end on that, just the one coil. So the end result is a perceived bass boost, with one of the coils being very dark and the other coil being regular full range. So it's quite a remarkable bass boost sound. Now, there's all kinds of fabulous reviews and demos out there of the Fallout bass, but I thought I'd take a little bit different approach with this video. And the reason being, when I think of short scales, a lot of the famous short scale bass players were around in the 1960s. Jack Bruce with his Gibson EB, EB3 I guess he played, and then Paul McCartney was famous for playing that Hofner short scale hollow body, and a few other players. I think Jeffrey Hammond of Jethro Tull started out on a Leo Fender designed Mustang bass, which was one of Leo's last designs for the Fender company before he sold it. The other thing, back in those days, almost everybody used flatwound strings, and that's a real element of that old short scale sound. So I'm going to focus on a little bit more of a retro angle with this. I strung this with a set of old school Labella deep Talkin Bass strings. They're quite fat. I went up a gauge, so I have 49 to 109. The idea generally with a shorter scale, if you go a little bit thicker string, it helps compensate for the shorter scale, and it gives you it returns some of that fatness to the sound. The other thing I'm going to do, if you look at pictures of the old Fender basses, a lot of you will remember that there were these big chrome covers over the pickup. So in those days, if you didn't take them off, the player was either forced to go up here or down here to pluck. Now, not many people went down close to the bridge because it was a pretty bright sound. So most people went up here, which gives an extra bit of warmth because you couldn't put your hand there. So a lot of players went quite close to the fingerboard here. So I'm going to do some demos with that in mind as well, rather than playing right on top of the pickup. Only I will go up here a little bit too. The other thing I'm going to do a bit differently with this demo is I'm going to stay on whichever mode for a bit and then play around with the tone and hand position so that you can hear, say in parallel, the difference between playing here and having the tone control up or down. So for all of these demos, I'm playing through my 1970 Ampeg SB12 Portaflex. It's got a 12-inch speaker, and I've got a Sennheiser 602 microphone picking that up, and I'm also running it direct through my IK Multimedia Axe Solo interface. So we have some direct, and the other is a mix with the amp. So here we are in parallel mode, tone all the way up, and I'm going to pluck right here by the pickup. Now, without changing anything on the bass, I'm just going to go and pluck up here. Pretend I had a chrome cover here and I didn't have a choice. So again, parallel, tone all the way up. Okay, now the same idea. This is single coil mode, so we have a little bit more top end. And let's hear how that sounds. Again by the pickup. Now again, without changing anything, I'm just going to go up by the fingerboard here, single coil. And lastly, OMG mode, or the bass boost. Try and get the volume similar. It's a little bit louder, so I'm going to drop the volume control just a tiny bit to try and even it out. So again by the pickup. OMG mode up by the fingerboard here, tone still at 100%. So now I'm going to do some examples with the tone down around 50%. So here's parallel, tone at 50, and I'm right by the pickup here. 50% on the tone, and I'm up by the fingerboard. Okay, now let's do the same thing with single coil mode. Tone at 50% by the pickup. And single coil mode, tone at 50%, up by the fingerboard. Okay, now OMG mode with the tone at 50%. And OMG mode, tone at 50%, playing up by the fingerboard. So let's do a little pick playing, shall we? A lot of the prominent players from the 60s, like Carol Kay, Joe Osborne in the LA studio scene, and Paul McCartney from the Beatles, were all pick players. And they had slightly different sounds, each one of them. And you can kind of get those sounds out of this instrument. I'm going to go in the 3 modes, and I'm only going to pluck up here by the fingerboard now, because a lot of those players had those chrome covers here, so they pretty much all played up by here. So to get that sound, I'm going to put the tone at 50%. So here we have parallel mode, the tone at 50%. So now single coil mode, tone at 50%. And now we'll go to OMG mode, tone at 50%. Now, just to summarize a little bit with the tone differences, overall I'd say parallel has a bit more mid-range. It's got plenty of top, plenty of bottom, but it also has a lot of mid-range. Single coil kind of scoops out the mids a little bit, gives you nice crystal clear highs. So that's a little bit more like that Joe Osborne jazz bass neck pickup only sound. And then if we go to the bass boost mode, or OMG, it's just, you know, that really big fat bottom comes in. A little bit covered in the other frequencies, but it's got that really rich bottom. So the last thing I'd like to demo with the fallout bass for you is a little bit of Tic Tac Bass. Now in the old days, in the 50s and 60s, a lot of recording sessions used a double bass, and they would double it with a 6-string bass, probably a little bit more akin to a guitar, baritone guitar. Very bright sound. You know, a lot of times there were a Dan Electro. But the fallout does this great. So if I go into single coil mode, tone all the way up, and then I'm gonna play it through guitar amp. And I've got the headphones here because I pre-recorded my double bass along with the drum track. And I'm gonna double the double bass with the fallout in a sort of tic-tac old school way. So I hope you enjoyed this video and found the playing examples useful. I tried to show a good range of what this bass could do in a sort of flatwound retro vibe, and I hope you found it informative. Thanks for stopping by.